to Jackie Unfiltered ASMR, your ultimate destination for soothing ASMR experiences. Hey friend, thank you for being here. Today, I'm going to be reading from my short story about alcoholism in the family. It's a fictional story based on some true stories. I called it The Echoes of Hope, a tale of resilience. I hope you enjoy this, especially with the sound of rain in the background. This is Chapter 1, New Beginnings. As the first light of dawn broke through the curtains, little Sarah came into the world, her cries echoing through the hospital room. Her parents, John and Emily, looked on with tears of joy, their hearts full of hope for their newborn daughter. Sarah's arrival brought a sense of completeness to their lives, a beacon of light in an otherwise tumultuous world. Little Sarah's first few months were filled with love and laughter, but a shadow loomed over their happiness. John, Sarah's father, began to struggle with alcohol, his once occasional drinks turning into a nightly routine. As Emily watched her husband slip further into the clutches of alcohol, she felt a sense of helplessness creeping in. The man she loved seemed to be fading away, replaced by a stranger consumed by his demons. Sarah, too young to understand the turmoil brewing in her home, continued to smile and giggle, her innocence a stark contrast to the growing tension between her parents. Emily tried to shield her daughter from the chaos, but the echoes of John's drinking could not be silenced. As Sarah grew older, the storm of her father's addiction grew fiercer. Nights were filled with raised voices and shattered glass, and Sarah learned to hide in the shadows, seeking refuge from the chaos. She would curl up in her bed, covering her ears to drown out the noise, praying for morning to come, and bring with it a fleeting moment of peace. Amidst the turmoil, Emily tried to shield Sarah from the worst of her father's behavior. But the weight of John's addiction proved too heavy a burden, and soon Emily found solace in the bottle as well. The once vibrant and loving mother Sarah knew began to fade away, replaced by a hollow shell consumed by addiction. With both parents lost to their addictions, Sarah sought solace in the world outside her home. She wandered through the woods, finding comfort in the whispering trees and babbling brooks. Among the rustling leaves and dappled sunlight, Sarah found a sense of peace that eluded her within the confines of her troubled home. Chapter 2, Learning to Survive. As Sarah grew older, she learned to navigate the treacherous waters of her home life. She became adept at masking her pain, wearing a facade of normalcy even as her world crumbled around her. Behind closed doors, she would retreat into herself, finding solace in her dreams of a better tomorrow. With her parents lost to their addictions, Sarah took on the role of caregiver, tending to their needs even as they spiraled further into darkness. She cooked meals, cleaned the house, and tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy in their chaotic home. Despite the heavy burden she carried, Sarah refused to let her parents' addictions define her. Yet, at 25, Sarah found herself still tethered to the chaotic existence of her alcoholic parents. Despite her best efforts to carve out a life of her own, she remained bound by a sense of duty and guilt instilled in her by years of her parents' emotional manipulation. Her parents, in their moments of clarity, would remind her of all they had sacrificed for her, painting her desire for independence as a betrayal. As Sarah grappled with her desire for freedom and her sense of obligation to her parents, she found herself caught in a relentless tug of war. The weight of their expectations bore down on her, suffocating her dreams and aspirations. She yearned for the courage to break free from the chains that bound her, yet the fear of abandoning her parents held her back. In moments of despair, Sarah sought solace in the quiet corners of her mind. She would steal away to her sanctuary in the woods, where the gentle rustle of leaves and the soothing babble of the stream offered her respite from the chaos of her home life. In the tranquility of nature, she still found a fleeting sense of peace, if only for a moment. She looked forward to those moments. Chapter 3. The burden of responsibility. As Sarah's parents grew increasingly reliant on her, the burden of responsibility weighed heavily on her shoulders. She juggled the demands of caring for them with the longing for a life of her own, her days consumed by endless chores and errands. She had become their lifeline, their anchor in a sea of uncertainty, and the thought of leaving them behind filled her with guilt and anguish. Despite her best efforts to maintain control over her life, Sarah realized that she was merely a pawn in her parents' game of manipulation. They used guilt and emotional blackmail to keep her tethered to their side, trapping her in a never-ending cycle of codependency. The more she tried to assert her independence, the tighter their grip on her became. Chapter 4. Breaking Point. As the weight of her burdens grew heavier, Sarah reached her breaking point. She could no longer ignore the gnawing ache in her heart, the longing for a life free from the suffocating grasp of her parents' control and addictions. With tears streaming down her face, she made a decision. It was time to reclaim her life, no matter the cost. With determination burning in her heart, Sarah took the first step towards freedom. She packed her bags, leaving behind the familiar comforts of her childhood home in pursuit of a life of her own. Though her departure was met with resistance and resentment from her parents, she knew that she could no longer sacrifice her own happiness for the sake of their codependent life and addictions. Chapter 5. The Road Ahead. As Sarah stepped out into the unknown, she felt a sense of exhilaration, but with fear. The road ahead was fraught with challenge and uncertainty, but she faced it with a newfound sense of determination and hope. She was no longer bound by the chains of guilt and duty, and was free to shape her own destiny, to live a life of her own. Okay, friend, please let me know if you want me to continue with my short story. Put a heart emoji in the comments. If I get 0 replies from you, I'll just not continue with my story, and that's okay. Please stay here for now if you're enjoying the rain sounds. Bye for now.